how this is gonna go between Billowy and Namshar, game 1 of this series. In the round of 16 here today of the WardiTV Weekly, we have to the bottom right hand side our blue Zerg player from Dead Pixels. It is Namshar. And to the bottom left, the red Protoss player. It is Billowy. As we set up into game number 1 of the series, have a little bit of a look to see how this is going to go, look to see what is going to happen in the first few minutes of the game. I mean, PvZ to whet our appetite a little bit. Always nice to see a little bit of PvZ. Actually, PvZ is a bit of a love-hate relationship for me, and you guys probably heard me a lot kind of hating on PvZ in the past, honestly, for the most part. And I do hate on PvZ quite a lot, I'm not going to lie. It's one of those matchups for me which I have scars from how boring it used to be with Swarm hosts, from how dull the openings used to be game after game after game. Because the openings used to be the exact same for like 7-8 minutes of game time. And that's like 5 minutes of like the exact same thing happening game after game, and really just nothing too interesting to talk about either. It's like, well, look, he's doing exactly what you expected Protoss to. He Forge Fast expands into +1. And oh, look, at Twilight Council, it's Blink, it's +2. And meanwhile, the Zerg is making 67 workers, and now he throws down a roach run, and he's making roaches, and oh dear, here we go, the bigger Blink attack. Like, it used to just be the same old thing, and there's only so many ways you can phrase something. PvZ nowadays, it's still a little bit of a slower start matchup. I would say it's still a little bit stale maybe in the very early stages, but it just doesn't last anywhere near as long as it used to. And so nowadays you can kind of get into the action a lot faster and kind of start enjoying the matchup a little bit more quickly, I suppose, is a good way to put it as we see this probe. Having a look around, seeing what's up, seeing what's happening. It's going to pull away down to the natural expansion, and that little drone right there from Namshar just going to be pulling away and on towards that mineral patch. Okay, cool. So nothing too crazy here early on from Namshar. Nothing kind of like a proxy hatch, no proxy gates obviously either. Not really any blocking or anything of the third hatch either going to be coming down. So both players just allowed to kind of play their game in the first few minutes of this. Not really either of them being distracted, annoyed, or kind of thrown off course by anything in particular. Where's Namshar from? Namshar's from Sweden. Pretty strong Swedish player. One of the real, in the European scene's one of the real players who, I wouldn't call him an up-and-comer anymore. He's quite, he's proven that he's one of the better European players. But he's yet to have like a massive result in an offline event, He's yet to have like a high placing, and he's always in WCS Challenger and bits and pieces, but he never seems to make it far, and he never really seems to have massive stories about him. Like, he might go 5 games against Hydra and DreamHack Leipzig in the round of 32 and nearly knock Hydra out before the prize money. But then he still doesn't make it, and it's just like, he always seems to get so close, but he never quite makes the mark, where people are like, oh, wow, Namshar. And I mean, we know Namshar's very good, and he's won online events before, he's won online cups multiple times, he can go for SC2s, he can take games off all the top players. It's just, he doesn't have the offline performance to back up his skill level just yet. Maybe sometime this year though, Yonkoping coming up of course, as well as Valencia. I'm not sure if he's going to Austin, he might be though. In fact, I think he probably is. Anyways, we do see the robot facility about to finish up here from Billowy, and a couple of extra gateways coming down in the natural expansion too. So a couple extra gates popping on down here. There's the roach run about to finish in the back of the natural for Namshar. I mean, he's just sent up into a nice safety roach run here, making sure that just in case there is going to be some units coming across the map early, he'll be able to make the roaches. The opening actually from our Protoss player, which we haven't talked much about, is kind of a weird one, being a robot facility. I sort of just said this kind of nonchalantly, and it is strange, like a robo first, no Stargate, no Twilight first, just a robo is such a weird way to open. As 2 adepts will shade in towards the third base mineral line here, actually miscontrols slightly and doesn't get the first drone kill that he was looking for. So he gets 1 drone kill overall here to begin with. As we'll see, those drones able to get back to mining nice and quick. And those adepts are maybe going to shade away actually. And shade towards the natural, maybe a bit of a mistake though. As you can see here, Namshar ready with a few roaches, and that's going to be another dead adept. So both adepts will now go down. We'll use the fast robo to get a fast warp prism out, but it's not like he has a kind of a massive unit or anything to utilize or to bring across the map in the first place. His Twilight Council now is finished, and he's yet to use that for too much, as he does Chrono Boost down, Immortal, extra gates coming down. One of the things that Billowy has gone for is a very fast third Nexus, making sure to get that very early on. And obviously now looking to use this Warp Prism as a way to keep Namshar distracted and to keep Namshar away from retaking that kind of, well, from slowing down the third base from being taken, I suppose, is the simple way to put it. As these two Adepts will just warp in and get this set up and ready to go again, as two Adepts jump up into the Prism and going to move over to the right-hand side, get in towards the main base in a couple of moments. There's some Roaches here from Namshar who will be looking to try and pick up some damage on a couple of these Adepts. Dark Shrine coming down in the meantime from Billowy as a follow-up to this, so maybe just looking for kind of a few different ways of being aggressive. I mean, the Dark Shrine follow-up, obviously we'll look to get a few kills here and there, as he'll pick up a couple more drones. That was nice, actually, getting both the lower health drones, despite them being pretty separated there. It's not something you'd always see. You'd see maybe overkill on one of the low health drones, or maybe just kill a fresh drone. But to actually target both of the lower health ones with two separate Adepts is pretty neat, as he just continues to move around. Not a lot of damage, but again, it's just keeping the Zerg honest and just making sure he's keeping track of that Zerg army as well. You know, if he's over here for the Prism and he sees the Roaches are in the natural or in the main base, then that's just information he can already look to utilize, and it's already information which he can be very happy about having in this game. And a few extra gates continue to come up here from Billowy. We see the Bayonets just over halfway done from Namshar. A few extra Roaches still on the way, and he's just going to look to play a Roach Ravager Bane sort of playstyle. Although he is going for that missile upgrade, so won't be too heavy on the kind of Ling Bane phase of things. Will be a bit heavy on the Roach Ravager, and actually a Spire coming down. I mean, the Spire is something that we see a lot with the kind of Ravager Bane sort of compositions. It's sort of like a timing where it's like, right, well, very shortly I'm going to have to start dealing with this Warp Prism. This game, the Warp Prism comes out a bit earlier, but the 5 or 6 meters are a very effective and efficient way of making sure you're always going to be able to push the Warp Prism away. And that just shuts down the harassment, plus the fact that 5 or 6 meters should still pick up a few workers. It's very hard for meters not to pay for themselves, unless the Spire is scouted super early. Now, hold that for, because we see 4 DTs making a march into the third, and you know what? Well, this Warcrawl, if it goes down, is going to drop very quickly, and then there's not going to be detection here on the third base. And then Overseer ready, not yet. And there's one morphing in. Where is it morphing in, though? Morphing in all the way. Oh, well, there's actually one over to the natural already. Where's the... Oh, there's one across the map, one in the natural. He's just going to lose the hatchery, though. So this hatch goes down, and, well, he could get a maybe another couple of units on his way out. He could have swiped a Ravager or so, but he's just going to back away. He might just go for this hatchery as well up here. Why did Namshar... Wow, he was really kind of cautious about other kind of Dark Templar. But he never brought the Overseer up to the top, and so still... Okay, there's one on the way. He's going to lose another base. The Dark Templar are going to have a field day so far. Absolute time of their lives in the first few minutes of this... well, first couple of minutes of their lives as... Well, Billowy's follow-up. I mean, the meters are going to be nice. They're going to be, again, a good way to shut down the Prism, etc. But, I mean, there's going to be 4 extra DTs morphing into Archons. There they are. So there's 4 Archons in this army against 7 meters. It's a decent amount of anti-air. I'm not going to say it's a lot of anti-air, because it isn't. And actually, the Prism might get caught by a couple of meters here as well, which would be unfortunate, because he is looking to get up here and to warp in to help out. Now, the Adepts will drop out. Prism dies. 4 more DTs will just warp in back over here, and that'll be again another couple of Archons. As the meters will start to set up and get ready to harass, and that's one way that Namshar has to really rely on heavily now to kind of get into this game, because, well, let's see how this fight's going to go actually, because we do have a lot of Immortals in here and a lot of Roaches. The Corrosive Files initially land pretty nicely though. Force Fields coming down from the Protoss player, of course, and I mean, the Zerglings are going down so quickly. The Zelds are doing a great job tanking, and the real problem for Namshar is there's just not an answer to the Immortals and the Archons, which are just going to be so difficult to get rid of with the low DPS of the Roaches. They're just going to keep on moving forwards here, and you can see that Namshar is having trouble holding position. Now, at the same time, Mutas are doing a little bit of damage. Stalkers are being warped in. It doesn't take many Stalker warp-ins to shut down this kind of lower number of Mutalisks. It's definitely not a scary kind of flock of Mutas like 20 or 30 would be. 7 is very manageable with just a couple of warp-ins, and that's exactly what we see here. As Namshar realizes he doesn't have a prize pool, which we should be at. Let's jump into game 2. Top left-hand side, we're going to start things off with the blue Protoss player coming on in here from... he doesn't have a team right now, right? Well, he's actually been a bit of a quiet one since the kind of the Korean teams dropped out of Korea. He's been just an online player. Anyways, the top left-hand side it is Billowy. As opponent to the bottom right, getting caught off guard by Dark Templar and that large army, really just putting an end to his hopes and dreams in the first game. It is our blue Zerg representing Dead Pixels. It is Namshar. So he's set up into game 2. Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me, yawning. Don't know what's wrong with me. I had a good sleep, man. I had a real good sleep. Well, I feel as though I had a good sleep anyways. Maybe I didn't have a good sleep, but I was tricked. I feel as though I had a pretty good sleep. Anyways. This is Reef Map 2. Nice, large. Probably one of those maps which is going to create kind of a... probably going to create kind of a bit of a longer game, more likely. I mean, it's not guaranteed or anything, but it's a map which can be a bit more difficult to attack into on certain positions and so on, so yeah, I imagine it's going to be pretty, I imagine it's going to be a bit of a longer game. The opening here already sort of indicates that. Nexus first into the double gates, obviously will be a lot of pressure from double gates, but the Nexus first obviously is a very economic, you know, economy-focused statement. It says, hey, I want to get a good economy, I want to play with that, and you know, while sometimes Protoss players can take a good economy and be like, oh, actually this great economy is perfect for doing a massive all-in off of, ha ha ha. Sometimes they do actually go up to a nice fast third base and just play it out from there. And again, it is a hard map to attack in on, you know, as a Protoss player here, how do you attack into 3 bases? You know, it's very difficult. You're attacking through very obvious locations, very narrow choke points. It's actually very difficult to imagine an attack coming in here early in the game, although Billowy's going to throw down a pylon, so maybe if he throws it into kind of very quick 2-base aggression, well then the kind of, the choke point factor doesn't come into play quite as heavily. So let's see what Billowy wants to go for here. Just a single pylon over on this right side, and so far at home, nothing to really suggest what this might be for. Whether it's going to be for just a single gateway for some extra warp pins, a Stargate. Wow. That's weird. In PvZ to proxy a Stargate? It's super weird, right? I mean, unless you just really want to... I mean, it's not even that close to the Zerg base. Like, obviously, it's closer than this over here. I mean, I guess what Billowy will aim to do here is probably to strike with multiple oracles. And so it's going to be very important that there's not going to be kind of... Well, he's going to really hope there's not going to be spores up, I guess. Well, look at this. These Lings are on a scouting path, and... Oh, they are on the way to meet that Stargate. And then what? He's going to lose the pylon? He's got enough Lings to kill the pylon in time. The Adepts are out of position to come and protect this. Yeah, he's going to find the Stargate. He's going to find... I mean, such a weird proxy. I mean, it is an Oracle on the way up to begin with, and again, the Adepts, they're not going to be there to protect against those Zerglings, so this pylon's going to go down. Power to the Stargate is lost, and... I mean, what a waste of resources, right? I mean, that's just all the resources for a Stargate gone, useless. No value gained from them. The pylon going down as well. Not going great. We're going to see these couple of Zerglings going to come forwards and going to keep on trying to fight these couple of Adepts. And right now, these Zerglings are going to continue dropping, actually. They are not having a great time. There you go, one more Adept going down. The other one shades on up. No shades on over towards the third base, where he is going to get picked off as well. Nexus drops down on the third from Billowy, and I mean, it's again been a bit of a strange few moments for him. Losing that Stargate, or losing power to the Stargate. The Stargate is about to go down shortly, potentially. I think it's going to leave it alone for now and look to see if they can cause some trouble towards the third Nexus. Obviously, if you can get in here and force the cancel, that would be pretty fantastic, but should be difficult. Pylons are up, and there is a Mothership core ready and somewhat nearby as well. You can see it's just a little bit over here, given high ground vision against an Overlord momentarily. As, well, you let the first pylon take a lot of damage to the point where it will go down. Which is a shame, losing the pylon, but at the same time he's still able to hold on, so... Not the end of the world. Robo and a Forge coming up behind this as well, and well, Namshar just goes into a lair. Evo Chamber starts up the +1 melee, and those Lings, as now they realise they can't do much more towards the third base, they are going to just work their way through that Stargate. Stargate will get taken down here, and that will be that. Alright, It's been what a really weird game so far, just because of that Stargate. I mean, obviously it puts Billowy into this weird position where he obviously isn't quite where he wants to be. But at the same time, there's been some bits and pieces which have been kind of been okay for him. Like a couple of adepts did a pretty decent job early, a couple of drones and some link kills. I mean, the work count isn't bad for Billowy. In fact, he's up in supply, which is kind of impressive, considering the fact he wasted so much money on a Stargate that never got any use at all. And we'll see a couple of probes going down here, though this run by, a little bit deadly, potentially, as it's not coming in to respond to this as quick as they maybe should. 3 workers lost so far, not too many. Now the probe's in a little bit of a worse off choke point. They're going to lose a couple more here, and that's going to be 6 workers killed, with 2 of these lings still alive in the main. 1 last worker, and that will be that. A little attack from Namshar again, just making the most of a low number of units. Just being a bit of a pain in general, as now we see the Robobay coming through, and so as Namshar goes in towards Hydralisk production, you may just see Billowy going straight in towards the Colossi tech as a pretty solid way to fight against it, actually. Colossi are pretty good against the Hydralisks. And there's also, with the Robobay up, the possibility of just throwing a couple of Disruptors as well. And while those Disruptors really are wildcards, you never know when they're going to take down a good chunk of the Zerg army. Suddenly the entire Hydralisk line just disappears in a second. Or when they're just going to be a complete wasted investment. They completely miss, and boom, all of a sudden, you just wasted so much supply, which could have been 2 Colossi. And that could have been a much more reliable way of dealing with that damage. So probably Colossi initially, just because of the reliability that they will get something done. But then again, the potential switch into Disruptors nice and quick can be just deadly. You know, if you got a couple in there just to try and hit those shots, it forces the micro out of the Zerg. And it creates the opportunity for that mistake to be made, which is generally where you want to be at, for the most part. Hydrogen Ling's going to be coming up here. We're going to see some Banes being morphed in as well. And Namshar just coming up the left-hand side and just going to be seeing what Billowy is going to do then. We're going to see Zealots, Adepts, Immortals all joining up over towards this third Nexus, and that's going to be seeing the Colossus production is on the way, but it's not ready just yet, so he's going to have to use a lot of force fields and overcharges to buy time. Mothership Core will not want to fall to these Hydras. He needs to keep this alive as long as possible, as we see a few Banes rolling forwards, a couple of them connecting, but nothing killed just yet, as we're going to be seeing more force fields still necessary. And we'll drop them once again. First Colossus out here. Extended Thermal Lance will be a big part of this as well, of course. I mean, you get that Thermal Lance and all of a sudden this game becomes much easier when it comes to turning away that kind of Hydra Bane force. You're just able to sit a bit of a safer distance with the Colossuses. Again, trading against a few of these Zerglings. You're going to see movement towards the left-hand side now. The cannon going down, a gateway too. It's starting to run out of force fields. I think there's a couple left, a couple of fresher sentries just being warped in, and it's a really good hold from Billowy in the end. I mean, you look at this, and now there's no Banes left over. The Hydras get pushed away by the Colossi. He bought the time that he needed, and now Billowy, he loses nothing there, really. I mean, what did he lose? Look at how units lost. He lost a couple of sentries, a couple of zealots, but the Banes did connect. What a defense by Billowy. I mean, that was actually pristine. A perfect example of how to defend against an attack like that. A perfect example of how to defend against an attack like that. And just come out in a great position. And now you can drop a Templar Archives. You can look towards Storm. Archons, maybe, if he just wants to go for a bit of a quicker timing attack across the map before Hive comes into play. If he was to hit with Archons here, he would be striking just before Hive was, well, maybe just after Hive was finished, but before any Hive tech units come out. You know, maybe Vipers will come onto the field, but they won't have energy while the attack's taking place. So, potential scary timing here from Billowy. Alternatively, he could just go for Storm and just play a bit of a slower game. Will give Namshar more time to get into Hive tech, though, which means he probably too has to think about the later stages, which could very well be why he's building this Stargate, getting ready for a little bit of a Sky Toss late game switch. A lot of these lingers from Namshar coming over to the left side of the map. There is the Storm coming up, and the Oracle as well. It's just looking for that Revelation initially, and with the Storm as well, it's again definitely going to be a bit more of a passive focused few moments before he moves forwards and tries to attack into something here, basically, on Abyssal Reef. That's what we're looking at now, is a couple of Overseers just floating on over to the right-hand side of the map. 1-2 Zerg and some Namshar as well, just looking around to see where they can get to, and Hitachi on the far right-hand side is also just sat over here. Roaches and Hydras Not sure where exactly they want to really be off to. They found the Zealot though, which means that the Protoss player does know this army is over on the far right. Meanwhile, Ling's just again ready to run by in towards the third potentially, but the Mothership Core pretty well positioned to defend against that. There's the first Vipers coming into play. Let's see. The first, I mean, there's the first, but there's a lot of them. Actually, 6 right from the get-go. It's obviously going to be an important feature of the army. I mean, it has to be from Namshar. He's playing Roach Hydra. The only way he's going to get anything done with this against Colossi, etc., is to abduct those units forwards. Which is why the Storm is going to be interesting, because not only is Storm going to be a great ability, but it also means there's going to be High Templar on the map, ready to hit those feedbacks onto the, onto the Vipers. And then all of a sudden, what are you going to do with Roach Hydra if your Vipers have no energy? Nice Revelation to start, hits it perfectly onto the Roach Hydra army. We're going to see a few Chinjins moving forwards, and oh god, here we go. First feedbacks are good. Was that a hallucinated Colossus? Was that a real one? It was a real one. It looked hallucinated momentarily. Did you see another feedback coming down? It's 2 Colossi falling. It's been a bit of a mixture. There's another abduct, and maybe Namshar just has a bit too much, because this army so far is just picking away at this Colossus count, and it's a little bit crazy not to see something like that. As you're going to see a couple of Chinjins again popped on down. A few Zerglings sat over to the left-hand side, and Mothership is starting to come on in. Carrier production on the way as well. Namshar kind of a step ahead though. Corruptors on the way out. Even if these are for Broodlords though, I mean, he's still going to have a good number of Corruptors to fight carriers right from the get-go. He's going to be seeing these units keep on attacking forwards, and there's the Colossi abducted again, and just means that he goes down so quickly. Nice Blinding Cloud as well, pushing some of the expensive kind of range units in towards the Protoss army. As you see, meanwhile, though, Ling attack in towards the third base is getting a lot of probes. Well, Namshar actually isn't. It's kind of weird. Namshar doesn't seem to be killing as much as I feel as though he's killing. Like, it feels as though he's killing a lot, and he's killing, he's doing a great job. And yeah, I look at the supplies, and I look at the monies in the bank, and Billowy's ahead. And I mean, I understand Namshar's throwing a lot of money to tech, but it's not like Billowy isn't. Billowy is also going for upgrades. He's also invested into extra Stargates recently, and yet here he is. I mean, Namshar also right now, I guess, has a lot of money in the bank. Maybe looking towards some kind of tech switch here in the next few minutes of the game. Some kind of tech switch that could go a long way to helping him out. Could be a possibility. We see 8 Broodlords on the way up. A few Corruptors starting to build as well. We're going to be seeing these Zealots actually coming through, and that's going to be a Great Aspire getting taken down almost immediately. So, Great Aspire getting shot down there right away as Hydra will come in, and that War Prism continue just trying to escape up the right-hand side of the map. So Prism trying to escape up there as, well, first carriers are starting to hit the map as well, but again, we sort of mentioned this, that Namshar is somewhat prepared. He actually morphed all of his initial Corruptors into Broods, but he has got more on the way out. In fact, maybe he has made maybe a couple too many Broods, but it will make the ground army a little bit, well, it will make the fight on the ground a bit tougher for Billowy, of course, so let's see how this goes. We're going to see a few more Archons just morphing in right now, and they're ready to try and fight this, but the march of the Zerg player is approaching. I think it all comes down to these carriers, really, but they have to be careful of the Hydras still, of course. If you're not careful of those Hydras, then you can just still get abducted in. Those carriers will disappear very quickly, because again, there's not many of the carriers just yet. So abducts are not out of the question, and there's plenty of Vipers. That's why the High Temple are going to try and position their front, but Billowy is actually going to go up the 2 front bases, allowing Namshar to keep pushing on in. First Storm comes down, just a handful of units, not really that many at all. Another Storm coming in towards the back here, and there's a feedback on an Overseer, not a Viper. That's not brilliant, as we see the first carrier is getting abducted, but there isn't even that many Hydras left over anymore, so there's not very much anti-air. And the fight that starts going so well initially here for Namshar is suddenly just not really going that well for him at all. The carriers are still going down, but the Stalkers are going to get underneath these Broodlords. There's just not enough of a follow-up. The Broodlord numbers themselves aren't really that high any longer. Oh, nice Blinding Cloud, though. We'll pick up a few more of these Stalkers. Still a couple of Hydras here. But the Broodlords are just so exposed. There's just no follow-up to kind of protect the Broodlords at this point, and I mean, there's more Corruptors in production. But maybe Namshar's just done enough anyways, having taken out the 2 bases at the front. He actually keeps 5 of the Broods alive, which is very impressive considering the situation. That Blinding Cloud on the Stalkers just previously was so important. Without that Blinding Cloud, he loses so much more in that situation. And we'll see the Broods, the Vipers, the Corruptors all collecting in towards the center. Corruptors come forward, pick off an Observer there as now blinking for us. They're going to try and chase down these Broods, and Broodlings will be dropping. Stalkers taking a lot of damage right from the get-go. We'll be cleaning out a few of those broodlings now. And another blink, another nice blinding cloud. He's going to try and move out of that. Here come the lings to try and wrap around those stalkers. Stalkers just trying to get rid of as many brooders as he can. He gets rid of the majority of them. And now with force fields, he'll be able to continue fighting the lings as Billowy is kind of just on one final march across the map to try and do something. Again, losing his bases means that his income has just disappeared in the last 2 or 3 minutes, as this income graph shows us rather beautifully that Billowy's income is just gone. And it's just taken him so long to rebuild a 4th base as well that it's not going to be back up here for a little while. So 4th base won't be back up for a little while. We see probes coming on over, starting to mine away. He's going to see these spine crawlers going to be poking away at the zealots, etc. And you're going to see a couple of hydras getting shot down as well. And yeah, another couple of spines getting taken down. And it's kind of like, I mean, it's a push forwards, but it's kind of weird because actually it's like a push forwards that kind of feels as though it's not got much power, but there's so many corruptors in the sky that they're sort of dead supply because there isn't any point for the Protoss player to really make any air units. Now obviously Namshar, if he gets some more minerals, he can morph in broodlords with those corruptors, so they're not completely dead supply. And then in fact they're very useful supply, and supply which Billowy doesn't really have an answer to at all. So a few of these broods just morphing on in, a couple of banes, a few hydras as well. Namshar still just setting up into this as you'll see Billowy coming in towards the center of the map. Still some Evo chambers just to the left side. Obviously being used for abduct, for consumes and so on from the Vipers, give them the ability to abduct, etc. Just pushing forward, going to be seeing the yes, continue to push on through. So just continue to pick up a little bit more here and there, and I mean, what else can you really expect at this point? Let's see the Harpoon's just going to clean up a few more broodlings. But how do you really push forward? The broods are here once again, and that's what's just been missing for Namshar the last couple of attempts, and is why that's the only reason that Billowy hasn't been able to push through, or has been able to make some progress, because the broods weren't here. Now they are here. I'm just going to be seeing the army of Billowy again is just in a lot of trouble. As we just again see the march of Namshar continuing up the left hand side. Gonna push on in towards this Nexus, and again with the Nexus about to drop on down, that's more or less gonna be the game. I mean, what else can you look to really do at this point? You're gonna see Zealots continue to drop on down as well. Probes keep on getting pulled in just to try and fight this. Meanwhile, a few drones going down. I'm not sure where that is. A few Zealots to the top right hand side fighting against spines, but won't be enough. GG is called, and Namshar will take after this game as we jump into game 3 of Billowy versus Namshar here on Cactus Valley. Do let me know what's up as well. Let me know how you're feeling. Don't forget, if you're enjoying the stream, you can subscribe to help us out. Trying to push up towards our next subscriber goals and all the rest of it. And well, we've got a long way to go. We've got a long way to go. But now that I'm feeling better, now that I'm feeling good again, we got time to put into the stream and all the rest of it, which is fantastic. So I'm going to be streaming a lot. I'm going to be bringing you guys a lot of action, a lot of content, and hopefully we can keep growing the stream once more. Get it back to where it was a couple of months ago, back in January and so on. And we had some really great times as we set up into this game. Obviously, if you don't want to subscribe but you want to support, then donating is a possibility. You can share in the chat, or very simply, you can just follow the channel, spread the word, tweet about us. Word of mouth is one of the most important things to a streamer. That's very often times just goes under the radar, you know? So any of that would be appreciated. And with that said, let's jump into Billowy Namshar game 3. Top left-hand side of Cactus Valley. The blue Protoss player here is Billowy. And he's going up against the red Zerg player in the bottom right-hand side from Dead Pixels. It is Namshar. Alright, so set up into game number 3 of the series now. Game 3, kind of crazy, right? We've seen 2 very different games so far. Namshar in the first game, kind of just getting rolled over by that kind of by the DTs initially, and then by the larger army. Second game went much longer and really saw all sorts of later game tech and different compositions in general. Namshar playing the Hydra Bane rather than a Roach Ravager Bane sort of thing, or Roach Hydra sort of style. Just playing a little bit differently between the two games so far. Nothing too crazy, nothing out of the ordinary. Just a bit differently, and just changing up their compositions based on the maps and so on as well. Now, Cactus Valley, out of the maps we've seen, is actually the most difficult map to take your expansions on. The third base comes kind of okay, and in cross spawns, the fourth base is kind of okay as well. But when you start moving towards the fifth base, it's so far away from your fourth base and your third base that it's actually very difficult to hold. And it isn't actually that far, but it's definitely out of the way. And because there's just natural ways to get there quickly, and it leaves, you know, your other bases very exposed unless you kind of really split your army up, it does create those sort of weird little situations, those weird little and tough little scenarios to try and figure out, as we're going to be seeing these couple of Zerglings into the natural expansion from Namshar. I'm just going to be seeing the Queen pushing the Adept away up through into the center of the map. So Adept looking around, going to come on down and again just keep scouting, of course. We're going to see again the Robo facility opening. The robotics facility, really not something which you see all of the time, honestly, in PvZ. In terms of like the opening tech structure, I mean, sometimes you'll see a Twilight and a Robo together for like an Archon drop or so, but just the Robo is so weird. And again, it's pretty much, well, it is what we saw in game number 1 of the series from Billowy, and we commented on it there, how it was a little bit strange, a little bit different, and what he did was he took a very fast third Nexus with it and just looked to harass a bit with the Warp Prism. Yeah, it worked out okay for him. I wouldn't say it was really the Robo opening that won him the game by any stretch of the imagination. I wouldn't say the Warp Prism was actually that effective at all. I wouldn't say the Warp Prism was that effective at all. I wouldn't say... I wouldn't say... yeah, I mean, I just wouldn't, like... It didn't really do much. He killed a few SCVs, yeah, a few probes here and there, but that was about it. And other than that, I mean, he gave him immortal production, but he could have had faster immortal production if he'd gone for, you know, like, he could have had better, not faster, but he could have had immortal production just as fast if he'd gone for like a Twilight into a Robo or something, like a bit more of a standard build. So it's a weird one. It's a weird one to open with. I wonder, I mean, did he get an Observer out? No, so it is just straight into the Prism. How weird. How weird. Anyways, a few drones do go down, apologies. Looking elsewhere. As a few drones get picked off, and in the meantime, Namshar once again back into that Roach Roar and going into Roach speed, not coming in towards the Hydral's Den early, even though he has got a lair up. Just going in towards that Roach speed and a Roach-based army. This time around, as you can see, a couple of Adepts going to move through and just be lifted up into that Warp Prism now as they're going to come down the right. Some extra gateways coming into play as well, obviously, but I mean, it's not like it's going to be too many. You'll be on 5 in total on the 3 bases. It's pretty, well, it's very reasonable. It's not over the amount that you need by a long stretch, so the setup into this, we're going to be seeing the Roach speed, as we mentioned before, is getting closer and closer to finishing. So the Prism initially will go into the main, but already some Roaches in position, a Queen as well. Spore will just help a little bit in terms of pushing the Prism back, or stopping it from flying behind the mineral line as easily, and that means that the Prism will not find a way in initially. But of course, I mean, you can keep on the map, and it's not too much of a commitment to keep here. There's only a couple of Adepts inside it, for example, so good chance you can get in and maybe find an opportunity to really get some damage done at a later point still. Just being kept around as these Adepts are not going to... Oh, they are going to shade in here. Not really the best of ways to go, though, as he's going to be losing both of those with only one drone killed. And meanwhile, Prism into the main does get shot down by the Spore and the Queen. So, complete shutdown here, and Billowy just trying a little bit too... You know, just throwing his head a little bit too hard at the brick wall. The brick wall still doesn't break down, but in his end, you know, he does break his head, sort of. That was a really bad analogy, wasn't it? God, I don't know what... Today I'm not casting very well at all. I can hear it myself, and I know you guys can probably tell as well, but man, that was fucking horrendous. Like, it's like throwing your head at a brick wall, and even if you throw it harder, you don't break the wall, but you break your head, like... That must be the worst, like, on-point analogy I've ever told. That's so bad. That was so terrible. That was so terrible. Oh my god. Oh my god. Wow, we do see the Robo finishing up and immediately going in towards those Colossi once again. Extended thermal lens will start. And the second Robo is up. And he is going to be going into the double Colossi at the same time. So 2 Colossi on the way. We see the Spire on the way again. Again from Namshar, a lot of the same sort of time as what we saw in game number 1. Coming in at the same sort of times. You know, he's going for Roaches and Banes. Bane Nest is a bit late. But he is going in towards that Spire so he can get a few meters up. Although he does spend all of his gas right now on 11 Ravagers. So 11 Ravagers coming on into play and going to get ready to push on in towards this third base. So we're going to start pushing forwards, and we're going to be seeing a couple of pylons already overcharged. Corrosive piles coming down initially. I mean, this is a big fight. There's a lot of Ravagers in here, and First Colossi are not part of this just yet, as we're going to be seeing the couple more Corrosive piles coming down. Actually, a couple of those mortals getting popped on their barriers there. But unfortunately, we still see more battles coming into play, and a little bit of back and forth here as the Roaches and Ravagers backing away, pushing forward, seeing what they can do. Colossi coming forwards now as well, as we still see another Zealot being popped. More battles up in the sky. Those Immortals, again, lower and lower, man. The battles keep on connecting. Billowy with a lot of money in the bank, though, and as he chases forwards, this Roach Ravager army does seem a little bit flimsy. Does seem as though it could go down very quickly, but he's still got to break through the Roaches to get to the Ravagers. And in fact, the Ravagers, I mean, they're pretty squishy. They are going to get rid of one more Immortal, though, at the very, very end, and that's going to be that for now, as these Stalkers will just blink in. And that's going to be an Overseer picked off. So the attack is held by Billowy, and he still has a lot of money in the bank. Did we ever see the meters come into play? No, never using that Spire just yet. I mean, it's still there, though, for Namshar, so if he wants to use it, he can use it. And a lot of this may just come down to, I mean, it obviously is not great if you build a Spire 5 minutes before you use it, but it gives you the option. Sometimes it's just best to have it up, but then not to use it. So, I mean, in an ideal world, you finish the Spire exactly as you realistically do want to make meters, but the Spire has a build time where you're not going to know at the end of the build time if it's going to be realistic to make meters or not, right? You say, well, I think I could, but things change in StarCraft, and an 80-second build time is a long time for those things to change. Now we do see the Photon Cannon just coming up in this mineral line, and meanwhile we do see just an Overlord moving over here, and Overlord just sat to the south a little bit, and a whole chunk of Roaches from Namshar. They're going to start pushing up this right-hand side of the map, so they're going to start pushing up this direction. Overlord will go down. Meanwhile, some Roaches, and that single Ravager from Namshar from over to the left as well. And too much going on. Not too much going on for a couple of moments. Dark Shrine coming in, Templar Archives coming in, as well as the Hive. So both players are just setting up into their next stage of the game here, which of course will give them a lot of possibilities. There's going to be a lot of opportunities here in the next few moments to kind of go into that next stage of tech. Now, Namshar are going to go for a bit of a Burrowed Roach play towards this third. Meanwhile, I mean, really just sits kind of comfortably over the left side where he's going to defend right away. So the Burrowed Roach is there, I guess, going to catch Billowy a bit more off guard as he'll drop double overcharge right away, but I mean, the Roach is already on top of the pylon, so they'll go down very quickly, empowering some gates as well, and these Stalkers on their own are not really going to be enough to fight this, so now Billowy having to send more of his army over in that direction, and he should be able to continue pushing those Roaches away. So Roaches will get pushed back. A few more Dark Templar coming on in here. We'll be finishing up shortly in Immortal. Been paused in production actually as the pylons went down, and I didn't see the Robo being empowered. And now we see the Corruptors on the way out as well. Spire starts to morph into a greater Spire for the Hive now finishing. And the second Spire too, as we're going to see actually the DT warp in though, is once again going to find a hatchery kill to the left hand side. Namshar will lose a base, and more Prism will come in just in time to save 3 of the 4 Dark Templar. Just manages to use it in time. Wow. So Prism coming in saving the day there, is getting that Overlord from Namshar just getting pushed away to the side here, and going to be seeing a couple more Immortals on the way up. Billowy continue to build these. 3 more Archons are on the way down now. I'm just going to be seeing that Psionic Storm is about halfway done. So Psi Storm about halfway done. Spire is about halfway done. Greater Spire, as we mentioned before, will not be too far from finishing. The second Spire just so you can continue 2 upgrades at a time for his air units, which can be pretty useful. So I imagine that might be something he goes in towards, as again, this hatchery still just continue to build on up, and here you go, Billowy going to come down through the center of the map. A bit of a a death bally sort of push here. Storm is going to finish shortly, but he doesn't have Templar mixed into the army. Not sure what the plan is there exactly. Now he does still have the Warp Prism to the left as the Broodlords are starting to come into play, and Billowy is just going to arrive like a few seconds too late to kill the Broods, or is he? He's going to blink underneath right away with the Stalkers because he knows he's on a bit of a timer. Kill the Broods ASAP is going to be much better for him than letting them finish up, because those Broodlings are going to be difficult as Namshar loses all but 3 or 4 of the Broodlords, and now 2 more will go down just before he's ready. Oh, he transfuses one of them, so he's got 3 left over, but another blink. There's nothing on the ground anymore, and Billowy is going to clean this up. Namshar has absolutely nothing left, and that is just going to be game right there. Meanwhile, a bit of a counterattack does clean up a good mineral line, but I mean, Billowy has such a strong standing army left on this side of the map. Namshar is kind of, well, hiding away in his main base with a few Corruptors, trying to morph in Broodlords, trying to make something happen. There's the GG, and Billowy will